This video is actually the best example of what my channel stands for. A long intro, which this will definitely have, a long video, which is usually the case, no real structure, which is especially the case this time here because I won't even try to get it right since you see so much, and I'm actually happy if this won't end up as a complete disaster because there is so much to talk about here with so many things to consider, because this is actually one thing that I want to start off with. I will compare and review today a bunch of network speakers and also smart speakers, as you can already see with the Google Home. And I have to tell you already from the first thing is, there is no perfect speaker that does it all, that sounds great, that works easy. I will show you all, and there are some compromises, and depending on what you want, you will find that. Personally, what I was exactly looking for, I didn't find, so you kind of have to pick your poison, what's good enough for you, for what you need it for. And I'm gonna definitely go in-depth enough, and I hope my camera will actually survive, but this video could get crazy long, so in case you want to use the timecodes down there in the description below, they are. But I would say let's already start with the first thing. What exactly am I gonna cover here today? So first of all, here Sonos, the two, Sonos Play 1, Sonos One. There is also the Google Home. There is also Sony's answer to the Google Home, which is called, and I can never remember, the LFS50G. Yeah, very nice name. Maybe go for something like Google Homey from Sony. I don't know, doesn't matter, but these are a little bit of an anomaly because these are pretty much pure smart speakers and definitely not comparable in terms of sound. But after all, since the Sonos One also has Alexa integrated, hopefully I didn't trigger anything, this is comparable after all. And for example, Yamahas are also compatible with Alexa. Sorry once again, and you can just pair them up. Otherwise, we have Sony's answer here for the network speaker system, which is the ZR5. Also works as a stereo kind of pairing device, and I had actually two. Then I have the Yamaha WX30, the WX10 that I also already kind of reviewed in the past, and a brand that is pretty much just sold within Germany, but available also outside. But just to keep it kind of similar to my German version, the Teufel 1S. So these would have been it. Let's actually take a little bit of a closer look into those. So which one should we start off first? So let's put some of them aside. And due to all the cables that I will have to show, that has a reason, it will be a little bit chaotic. So let's just start off with the biggest one first so I can get that out of the way. This is the WX10 from Yamaha. No, that's actually the 30, sorry. And I don't actually know why everything turns out purple on my camera due to this lighting. But as you can see here, connect button, volume, play. Of course, some status LEDs. On the bottom, we have Ethernet and the plug for the cable. This cable is super long. It's like 3 meters, and you could mount it also to the wall. Some reflex and so on. Nice mesh. Hard. Yeah, of course, rubberized feet. It is one of the biggest ones. Definitely, it is actually the biggest one here in this comparison. Also the loudest one. But I'm actually not going to go too much into the sound in this one because I think it's actually broken. I will have to return it because something sounds a little bit fishy. And I will have to double check. So that's why I don't want to talk too much about this one. So let's actually take the plug out because we have covered this now. And since we've already done this, let's cover its smaller sibling that I have reviewed in my chorus review, the WX10. Now this time the black version. I actually bought both of these. Also a mount. Actually, this is the nicer mount because with this one you can easily mount it on the wall and you don't have to have kind of these kind of, not really proprietary, but still kind of mounting devices. Then, of course, power again, also 3 meters long, Ethernet, and the micro USB that I still actually don't know what it does because I never really checked. And then rubber feet, mesh, of course, also the controls, connect, volume, and so on with the LEDs. So this one, it's quite heavy, but it's well built. It gets a little bit dirty with time, but yeah, okay. The next one, which one should we take? Let's take the Sony, which is actually my favorite when it comes to the design because it's a nice square. Definitely Sony likes that, but it doesn't take much space up on your desk and it looks minimalistic. I like it. Also, for example, here you can see the tweeter, the mid-range, and the two bass chassis, even though I'm not quite sure if both are actually active mode. Maybe one is just a passive one. Also the mount on the back, but here is actually where the big difference starts to some other ones. The amount of connections and ports, because you can use this stereo pair, so you can just use a second one, and this is actually proper stereo because it actually chooses a left side and right side, which you will have to set up with this button. Then also update WPS. You have an audio in, only this one and the Teufel actually have this, which is actually a big omission. I would wish to have all of these, to have this feature. USB, if you want to use it with a with a USB stick. This is the only one that has HDMI with ARC to TV, so audio return channel. Also wired connection for the Ethernet and the AC in. The only thing that I have to complain about this one here is the super short cable, because this one, as you can see, that's the whole length. That's not even a meter, I think. It's maybe like 80 centimeters. Definitely too short, because usually I can't even get from the desk to the floor. So you can easily replace that with a longer one, which you definitely should do. So that's not it yet, because on the top we have NFC, since you want to easily use it with a pairing. Then function. If this would have been lit, you would have seen some status LEDs here, but it's just not plugged in. But you see, for example, if it's linked, if it's with a network, if it's used the Bluetooth mode, because this one also has Bluetooth, and also which input you are just using. Here, of course, touch for the volume and pairing along with the power button. So that's this one. I definitely like this one a lot in terms of design. The next one, let's get to the Sonos Play 1. I like the kind of mechanism that they used for the plug, because as you can see, this one just, yeah. I actually don't really even know right now how to get it out, but as you can see, it's flat on the bottom. Also mount. I don't like these screws because you have to have kind of proper stands for that. And then Ethernet. That's already it. There is no Bluetooth, which is the biggest issue I have with this one. There is no audio in with a plug-in or something like that. I mean a cable. Then play and pause button, volume rocker, status LED. That's it. It feels very, very nicely built with this mesh. It looks kind of nice. Of course, a little bit not glossy, but yeah, it picks up a little bit of some smear. That's the next one. Now let's get to the Sonos Play 1. It's a little bit heavier, same kind of cable that I won't really try to get out. Connect button, Ethernet. Also no Bluetooth, no cable plug-in or anything like that. But this one comes with Alexa built in. You can just easily do that. Of course here, play button, volume, and the microphones and the rest. Very well built. I think this one looks a little bit nicer than the Play 1. But both do a really nice job. No. What else do we have here? Let's get to the Teufel here. Maybe it doesn't look all that spectacular, and actually is very wide, because this takes up quite a lot of space and it doesn't really sound bigger than the other ones. So they could have maybe made it a little bit less space waste. Yeah. 3 buttons for different kind of presets or something like that. Play, switch tracks, volume, and 1 button. I don't really even know what it does. Not quite sure at the moment anymore. And this is actually not a full review, because I've just got this like 3 days ago and I did try it already. I can tell you the most necessary things about it, but don't take everything for granted. A final review as well though will come. On the bottom, I think if you pull this out, yes, for the screws, so you can mount it. Then aux, yes. Nice. Bluetooth, absolutely nice, maybe even nicer, because with this one you can just easily pair it with everything, which is the biggest issue I have with Sonos. Setup button, reset, micro USB once again, a USB port for the sticks, Wi-Fi, not Wi-Fi, but Ethernet. The German always confuses me. And the port. Now, what I don't like here so much is the big charger, because I would wish for just a cable, but that's the one thing that I don't like. Same as also on the Sony that I will go into next, because we've pretty much covered this one already. Feels okay, looks okay, nothing really spectacular, but it could be maybe a little bit of a different design, because it takes up so much space. Now, the next one, the Sony, also comes with this big clunky charger. I would wish for this to be integrated, because I don't like these cables, because it just takes up so much space in your power outlet. Other than that, we have an LED clock that you could see if it would be turned on, but I just didn't want to have them turned on, not to trigger anything. But there is an LED that shows you the time, and some also 4 LEDs once you activate and so on. There are touch controls here at the top for volume and such, which you won't really use since this is using Google Home, so you can just talk with it, which is what you will do. Now on the bottom we have the button to actually dim the light. You can also restart it if you press it longer, and the hold button here also. This is nice. Bluetooth. This is the big, and I can't stress this off enough, big advantage over the Google Home, because the Google Home just doesn't have this. And here you can mute the microphone, NFC tag, nice mesh, feels well built. It's actually lighter than it looks. And let's get to the last one, which, yeah, I don't really like at all. But you will see soon enough why. First of all, also a charger, a flat cable, which I have no idea why anyone would use flat cables for something like this instead of just, yeah, it doesn't matter. You can just plug that out. No Bluetooth. No line in. Nothing. This is just a smart speaker. So if you want to use it, of course, you could replace those. And this is, in the whole review, in the whole comparison, the weakest link. This I cannot recommend at all. Because if you want to use Google Home to get your smart home activities done, just get Google Home Mini. My brother has it. It's pretty much just about as loud, and this one sounds like garbage anyways. So if you just want to talk with it, just go for the smaller one. This is a complete fail, waste of time. But I would say the next thing we should actually do is talk about the software and the features and so on. Because Google Home is Google Home. You just say, okay, Google, or I don't want to trigger it actually, or hey, bub, and it will do what it usually does. The voice assistant works. The same thing actually as well for the Sony. So don't expect this to do anything else. Of course, what it does, it has Chromecast built in. So you can just use Chromecast, the cast feature, and use it then with your phone, which is nice. But for what I personally want from these speakers, from all of them, is an easy connection to something like a laptop or a tablet where I can just stream the audio. I can't do this on this one, and I've tried and asked. Google told me it's just not yet a feature, so fail. This is just a smart speaker, just for Google, nothing else. It's different with the Sony, because it does everything the Google Home does. Okay, it's more expensive, I get that, but it comes with touch controls. It's not really a big thing, but it has the LED in case you want some clock as well. But the biggest thing is that it supports Bluetooth. So I can just easily hook it up to my laptop, to my tablet, without any issues. I don't have to use Chromecast or anything, even though it still works as well. And it sounds better. So if you want a very capable, easy solution with just one system, this is it. If it's the sound that also delivers, is something different, but we'll talk about that later. Now, let's get into the other softwares, because these are a little bit more elaborate to be talked about, because here I have them. Let's talk about actually from worst to best. Music Center, because we don't have to talk about Google Home. That's not really necessary. Let's talk about Music Center. This is what it works with for Sony, and you can see this is actually on English, but it doesn't matter. You have some actions, some settings, and the problem is that for right now, you can see this is where you have your sources. Here you have some settings for the speaker. Unfortunately, since it's not connected, it doesn't really show up. But what you have is this, where you see your music. And this is not the very best solution. It works okay, but there is no search function. Sorry if you don't see this properly. Of course, Spotify, but all it does is actually links just to those apps. It's not like they would work natively. But you could just go this, check your music and so on, and use it. It works okay, but it's very simplistic. You have some different profiles for the sound. Usually you just use Clear Audio Plus and you get pretty much the best sound out of it. This is, by the way, for this one, just in case we're not confusing anything. This is not for the Sony. Sony uses the same software as Google Home, but the Sony here allows for pairing and the functionality, but it misses a few things. It's a little bit quirky, and it's a little bit unfortunate that I don't really have them plugged in, because then I could show you. Or I should maybe do it. Yeah, video will be long enough anyways, so let's just plug some of them in again so I can actually show you a little bit more, because otherwise I feel like I would leave you hanging with too little information. So let's just wait for a second until this one boots up, and I will plug in the rest as well, because if I'm gonna make this video overkill, let's just make it complete overkill. The problem is though that some cables are so short that it will be quite the hassle to get. The Sonos, the good thing is about I can only plug in one. And yes, I should have maybe prepared that actually a little bit before. But it's okay. Next, Yamaha, which I only need one, and then we are good to go. Yamaha has crazy long cables. So you can definitely place them wherever you want to. And I hope the focus will work good enough because I couldn't really do much more. So, okay, the Sony should be up. Let's actually check. No, it's not yet. I have to turn it on. Okay, so as you can also see now here it shows network, which means it should connect pretty soon. I hope this one is actually the linked one because the other one I turned off. But like I said, the software is really not that strong. It's very limited. You can't really do much with it. So, okay. Let's just leave that for another moment and see if at least the Yamaha is already turned on. Okay, this one is. So let's get into the Yamaha, which is the next software, which works okay because here you have your sources like server, for example, Bluetooth, AirPlay. Here we have your music, which you could... Welcome to the I hope... No, this should not be any issues. I actually don't know why some songs started because doesn't matter. No. You can choose from your phone and such. The problem is if you go, for example, to the server, and here I go to my server, music, and I've said this in the first review already. If I go to my music, and these are all the albums, I can just long tap and then do play and so on. But if I go back and I want to go into the artists, I can't long press and nothing really happens. So if I can't just play all of the artists of one certain one, I have to go into it and add them every time. And this is just a clumsy situation. And I don't want to go much into that because the software is definitely not the strongest thing. The good thing is, yes, you have settings, for example, for the bass, the mids and sleep timer, and all that is there. And it is working functionally. The good thing is that I like is that you can quickly choose if you want to use Bluetooth or something like that. The other ones that have Bluetooth work a little bit different, but the software is a little bit clumsy. Now let's talk about the Raumfeld software from Teufel, which actually works really nice because here, for example, you can see all your albums. It looks nicer. It definitely is way nicer designed. You have a lot of settings because this is also the only one that allows you to turn off the LED in case you don't want that light because it's distracting you. And what else? You have a lot of settings. My music, for example. Let's go into that. Big thing, you have a search function. And it actually remembers what you asked last for. Because last time I checked for In Flames. And now it finds that. So this is convenient. It's not quite as good as Sonos. But it works really good. And I could just now long press. And then I could select. Or I just go into it. And then I select what I want to do. I'm not going to start it because I don't want to trigger it. You have, of course, some settings here. If you go into the speaker, also highs, mids, and bass. Volume. The volume can be changed here, but only in 5 steps. And I don't like that. I would wish for this to be 1 level steps because it's just not precise enough. And if you want to use the older or the different method, you could just use this. But yeah, I would really like this to be, because on the great thing about Yamaha software is that if you are in here, you can just use this, and this is very precise, very granular. You can change, and this is also the only one where you can change the volume with the device being turned off, so it doesn't even have to be turned on. But otherwise, I definitely prefer the Teufel software, which actually means devil, by the way, in German, over the Musiccast. But Musiccast is still better than what Sony offers. Now, the best one, though, is, because it's just working the best, is Sonos, because you also have different kinds of sources. Of course, you have a lot of options. You could enable it with Alexa as well. You can select the rooms. Of course, you can also change things like, for example, if you go in here, the equalizer and so on. This is also available. A lot of options, and they are German here right now, but it doesn't matter. I just forgot to change that. But this is the most capable software. It looks the nicest. It works the nicest. Also here you can have shuffle and so on. This is absolutely great. But now let's talk about the important things that they can do and where their limits are. And this is my main issue with Sonos. Sonos, if you only want to stream music from your library or from any kind of streaming services, because it supports pretty much all of them, this is the best. Because the software is the best one. It works just the easiest. Absolutely. but you can't connect it to your laptop. You have no line in, you can't do anything. So this is pretty much just good for listening music via streaming service or with your own music library. Outside of that, you are completely locked out. And I said this actually to Sonos. They said, of course, we're always trying to import features, but if they would really want to go outside of their bubble, they would have least have had, which is not asked too much, Bluetooth in it. If this would have had, you can see it. If this would have had Bluetooth, this would have what I have had in my whole house. So Sonos for me is out of the question. Not an option. Without any chance to connect it to give out my sound from my laptop or from my iPad or for any tablet is just a no-go. If it's just for the music, software works great. The next most limited one would be, of course, the Google Home, but let's just forget that this one is out of the question. Doesn't really matter. This one is nice. It supports Chromecast, it supports Bluetooth, so I can easily use it with the things that I want to. So all is fine here. Google Home Assistant and all that. Now, the good things and the bad things about the Sony. The good things are that it does support pretty much every standard. Chromecast built in, maybe no AirPlay, that's only for the Yamaha, but Bluetooth, line in, stereo mode and HDMI. Very, very flexible. It's just the software that's not that great. A little bit clumsy. You can get everything to work. That's absolutely fine with equalizer settings and so on. But the software, the way you choose your artists and all of it are a little bit clumsy. But otherwise, it works. Now the next thing that works as well, but I'm not the biggest fan of the software. I said already about the two Yamahas. Because also here we have AirPlay, which is absolutely nice to see for all those people still caring about that. Then we have Bluetooth, so I can easily connect it to everything. And we have the library function all covered. I would have wished for this to have line in, because with line in, you could just easily add Chromecast functionality with a Chromecast audio to it, and that would kinda be the best possible solution then. But it's not. The software, like I said, also choosing tracks, because it's a little bit weird. If you just want to access your music, you know what you're looking for and so on, it's okay. But for example, you don't have a quick scroll function, which is just so we are clear, which is this feature here. If we go into the MusicCast software, if I go to server, so here I can just drag and select where I want to be, and then it shows me the stuff. This is not possible on the Sony. On all others it's possible. So even though this is not super convenient, it gets the job done. I also don't like the playlist behavior, because every time you start a new album or something like that, it gets added up to the main playlist, and it always gets longer, just instead of just replacing it. For example, on the Teufel, you always have the option, if you want to replace it, or also on the Sonos, replace the playlist or start a new one, which is just not so convenient, but it's very flexible. Because as long as I can get Bluetooth working, which is important here, I am fine. We covered the Sonos. Now, the Teufel. This is the most flexible one with the best software, because line-in has Bluetooth. No Chromecast, but you could add that through the line-in. You have a USB port, which is also only a thing for the Sony. The software works really great. So in terms of most flexibility, most versatility, and pretty much the nicest features with the best, besides Sonos with the software experience, this is it. But let's not forget one thing that is very important about these. Obviously, the sound. So let's start from garbage, which is the Google Home, to best. Yeah, garbage. This sounds terrible when it comes to music. You can, of course, use it to listen, and if it's just some casual music in the background, it works, but it has no real volume, and I'm really sorry that I can't actually show you some demos, because I specifically for this video bought a microphone, but whatever I tried to kinda record the sound, it worked out very crappy. So this is just something that's unfortunately not a thing. So I am a little bit sorry about that, but when it comes to the sound, this one is absolutely not usable for music, unless you really want just some slide music, because there are no highs, it sounds very muffled, there is no real bass, no real volume, no nothing. It's good enough to hear something, but like I said, in case you want the functionality of this, which I'm not saying anything against it, just get the Google Home Mini. Now, why should you choose the Sony S50G, where you can actually now see the clock, you could dim that? Why would I choose this over the Google Home? Okay, it's more expensive, but you get, for me at least, very importantly, the functionality of Bluetooth. And I used this for, I think, way over a month, like 2 months with my laptop. It connects because that's the great thing about all of these Bluetooth speakers network speakers that have Bluetooth. Because once you set them up with your device, because they are plugged in all the time, they always connect automatically. So every time I open my laptop or I start my tablet, these are already connected. And once I maybe move the source to another device, because you are not limited, because that's the issue I have with Bluetooth speakers. Usually you connect it to one device, and if you want to use it with another one, you have to pair every time again. These you pair with as many as you want, and it just connects to the last one that was in use. So great. Sound-wise, though, I have to say the Sony is the weakest one, besides this trash can, of the network speakers, but it's not really that, because it's mostly just a smart speaker anyways, because this is just a competitor to Google Home. It does everything, like I said, with the clock functionality, with Bluetooth, so it works, which makes it more versatile. But the sound is still good enough for a replacement of our laptop, because I watched movies on this, of course quite close in a smaller room. I watched YouTube videos a lot with them, TV shows, and listened even to music as long as it's not too loud. Because I would say everything about maybe 85-90%, this is where it falls apart.
Ich verstehe nicht ganz.
Bang. Is where it falls apart, because otherwise the sound is good enough. There is not really much bass, which is the thing, because it lacks a lot in terms of volume, and I don't mean the volume in terms of, but it's not really a rich sound. It's a little bit on a thinner sound the louder it gets, because it's mostly for vocals. If you just watch YouTube videos and so on, I was actually fully pleased with that, because it got loud enough, because it's not really much quieter than the rest here, but it just doesn't have the full sound. It just doesn't have the capabilities. After all, it's also a 360 speaker, and it translates the sound everywhere around, where the other ones only go to one direction, and it's way harder to get good sound out of this with the same size as the other ones, also since it's being so much lighter. So in case you want to listen music occasionally sometimes, but you want the functionality of Google Home, this is a good alternative. It's a lot more expensive, I get that, but it has the extra functionality, and with Bluetooth it's fine, and the sound isn't terrible. But let's get to the real ones when it comes to the music. Now I would pretty much say that the next best one, or the next from the bottom down in terms of sound, is a little bit surprising for me, especially itself, because I will kind of put all of these three on a very similar level. And the thing is, really, it depends on where you use them, because in my bedroom, where I have my mattress, which absorbs a lot of the highs and makes sound just in general more rich and more bassy, these all sound so much better than, for example, when I tried them in my living room or up here. Because here in my studio, I don't know why, with all the reflections, all of them sound terrible. If you go on higher volumes, on lower volumes, because I think there's just too much reflection going on. Even though I have dampening going on everywhere, these don't sound good, and maybe that's also the reason why my sound demo that I wanted to record just didn't really work out. But the Sony, especially in my bedroom, it had a really nice bass in stereo mode. It sounded great. A little bit thin in terms of mids, a little bit, but nice highs in a good quality bass. A good sound in overall, very loud, which actually is the case for all of them. Now in terms of volume, I would say this one is the weaker one, if we don't consider these two. Then the Teufel, then maybe this one. So these are very close, and the Sonos get by far the loudest one. And like I said, the WX30 is of course the loudest one, but there's something wrong with the highs, I think, because it seems like so different compared to the sound of this one. A little bit odd. So this one works out fully nice, especially if you don't have the room too full, because because the smaller the room is, the closer you have it, and the more absorption, especially in your bedroom. They are really nice. This one sounds really good. Nowhere near a Sonos, but that's pretty much the rest for the other ones, because Sonos is on its own league, I have to say. But I would be totally pleased with this one. The next one, this is where I'm a little bit hard to choose which I like more, the Yamaha or the Teufel, because the Teufel is a little bit louder, but it doesn't have quite a nice sound signature, because it has a little bit more bass and nice highs and mids, but it's not quite the clarity, especially if you want to use it a lot with videos where you have vocals, I mean just people talking, YouTube videos and TV shows, I think the Yamaha worked a little bit better because there was so much more clarity in voices. It lacks though noticeably more bass. Of course you can add that with the equalizer and so on, but it never reaches quite this fullness. But this is the higher quality sound, but this is also a very nice sound. So it's not a huge difference, but they are quite different. So this one fully pleasing, this one fully pleasing, and I still like this one a lot. And I said this in my first Yamaha chorus review that I like this one a lot. That's why I bought it. I got it for 100 euros. Usually it costs like 120, 130, but this one is 200, and I will talk about price a little bit later on. Now the next one in terms of sound, which is in its own league, so these are definitely a noticeable step above the Sonos Play 1. Sounds great, and I'm not going to too much into that sound because the easiest way to describe the Sonos 1 and the Sonos Play 1 is that they sound very similar, which just shows that they have the same DNA. It's just that the Sonos 1 sounds a little bit louder, minimally. It doesn't really make a difference. It sounds just a little bit more mature, a little bit more high-end, nicer bass, nicer highs, a little bit more clarity, but it's just a little bit. It's not much. And you would be super satisfied with this one because they have, for their size, what I did not expect at all, a great bass, great tonality, and maybe that is also because they have this kind of loudness function where depending on your volume also they change the bass and it works brilliantly. So like I said, just for sound I would love these absolutely. So the Yamaha, like I said, the WX30, I can't talk too much about that. What I definitely saw on this one here, even though I think it's not really properly done, would offer the best value because it's around 180 euros. The loudest one, most bass, but I don't want to go much into that because I think something is broken. So let's just go from the worst to the best now, and my conclusion is the final words on everyone, which I think which one works for who the best. Google Home, if you want just an assistant, yeah, you could get it, but just get Google Home Mini. Dismissed. Google's Homie or Sony's Homie, yeah, if you want something just better, noticeably better than also the Google Home Mini, because this one still sounds way better, even though it's not nearly as good as these. Nice functionality, Chromecast built in, Bluetooth, works nice, clock, not bad. It's a little bit expensive and I would hope for it to be a little bit cheaper, but this is okay. But this is not if you want to go into network speakers, because that's why I said a little bit of an anomaly. They are not nearly on the sound of the other ones. Now, the Sony ZR5, ZR5, I really like the functionality. Not the biggest fan of the software, which is the same for Yamaha, but this one is even a little bit worse. Good sound, very, very versatile, very flexible. That's the big thing here. And with around 180, 190 euros, it's also still affordable for the price that you get. Because comparing to the Sonos, you don't get that sound, which is just what you don't get on the other ones as well, but you get just more functionality with line-in, Bluetooth and such. And I know I'm going over and over this, but especially if you, for example, use just the Chromecast feature. And then, this is the big thing for me, for example, because if I would now just stream, I could use my Orange Squeeze software, which I use for my Squeezebox. And now I have the best software possible for music access, because here I have everything I want to set up and the way I want it with the extra functions, and it shows me. So that's why Google Chromecast is great. So also, yeah. Yamaha, this is still just such a good buy when it comes to value, because 120, 130, it's definitely the best solution at 100 where I got it from, because besides having no line in, you have at least Bluetooth, you have AirPlay, you have good access to your local storage, to all streaming services. It works so nice, it has a good sound, it sounds loud enough, it sounds very nice, and this just offers the best value. Of course, if you can get a Sonos for around 150, and if it's just about music, go for this one. This one is if you want something very flexible, and if you want to maybe go into the ecosystem of Yamaha. Because for Sonos, of course, it's always an ecosystem thing, but I personally, I will just maybe stick with this and this, because you don't need to be locked into one ecosystem, because they're very flexible, I have to say that. Teufel, 200 euros. A little bit more expensive, but you just get a little bit more flexibility with the USB port, with the line in. Of course, also Bluetooth. The software is way better. This is the big thing to choose this No, I mean this over this, because it sounds about the same in terms of overall quality, just a little bit different. So I would be totally fine with both of them. Also, it's a little bit louder, nicer touch controls at the bottom, because you can just, as you can, whoa. Yeah, you can just feel them beforehand, even though it's capacitive and will work on touch. But you can feel them beforehand, and you have a little bit more flexibility than you have here. But software is so much better. The software is pretty much on a Sonos level. Sound, of course, not. And now this is the thing. Why should you go for the Teufel over something like the Sonos One or Play One? Because those are also like 190, 180, sometimes 200. I think usually, officially, this one is 230 euros, where this one is like 180. But I've seen this for 150 already, the Sonos Play One, and this one for 190. So very similar in terms of price now. So why choose Teufel over Sonos? Well, in case you want to do anything more than just listen to music. Because if it's just for music, go for the Sonos One or go for the Sonos Play One. But otherwise, if you want the line in, if you want to use it with a tablet, with a laptop, this. Because the software is pretty much the same, but it's just so much more versatile. The sound is just not as good as this one. Now, why should you go for the Sonos One over the Sonos? Well, you have Alexa included, which is pretty much the only thing. You could just pair this one up with Alexa and it would work just as well. But I think the extra price that you pay for the Sonos One is absolutely fine, because you pay like usually 20, 30 bucks more. You get Electra. I know some other YouTubers said that you get Electra functionality and you get a slightly better sound. That's definitely worth the little price up. Now, if this one should sound as it is right now, I can't recommend it because mine sounds weird. Just no highs at all. But I've listened to it in a store where it sounded way better, and I've seen a review where they said it's at least as good as the Sonos Play 3. If it's really that good, then this one is pretty much the best overall in terms of value, because it's 180. So let's say we go from the official prices, where this one is 130 and this one is 180. You pay 50 more. Of course, it's noticeably bigger, which makes it a little bit harder to put somewhere, but you get so much more sound out of it. For 50 bucks, this would have been worth it. Now, like I said, I can't unfortunately judge it because I still have to replace this. But now, in case you want to know my personal opinion, this is what I bought just for 100, because this does all I wanted to do. I can use it with my Bluetooth devices. Absolutely. I can still access all my music. It works nice and it sounds really good. And for 100, you can just do better. 120, 130, depends on what you need it for, because you can get better sound or more functionality and a similar sound, but you are more flexible on this. So I would wish for this to be like 180 or 170 to make up for the less sound of the Sonos, but therefore still great software. Because if the Yamaha would have the software of the Teufel, Yamaha all the way. Same actually also for the Sony, because the Sony sounds so good with just better software. So these two, super nice, but just not quite the software. But the MusicCast is my final decision for myself. If, especially in terms of value, if value is not a thing, maybe go for the Teufel, because you get just a little bit more out of it. But it's more expensive. Sonos, like I said, superb when it comes to music, of course, for what they are, for these kind of things, because in a big room they all fall apart. And this one for flexibility, and this one for pretty much nothing. Okay, so video was long, but actually not as long as I thought. I hope I gave you all the information, because I think I covered everything. There are some quirks about some things, like for example the charge adapters. I wish for a normal cable, but and so on. So yeah, let me tell you which ones passed the sound test, which just sound good enough. This one, yes. Yamaha, yes. Sony, yes. Sonos Play One, yes. The Yamaha WX40, if it works, yes. This one, yes, if you want the extra functionality, but this I would not buy if it's mostly for music or anything like that. For a laptop and so on, it works, and for some casual music, yes. This one, no. Now, the same thing about functionality. Yes, just because it has Bluetooth and Chromecast functionality is good enough. This one, no. No Bluetooth is a no-go. Sonos, no Bluetooth. No go. Best software though. This one, not the biggest fan of the software, but flexible, so yes. This one, yes. Not a great software, but still better than this, and good enough features because Bluetooth and so on. This one, yes, just because most flexible one, and a great software. But the sound is not really better than on this one. And the Yamaha WX40 is pretty much the same as the WX10. Now, just about the best sound, Sonos. If it would be just for music for the best sound, I would not go for anything else than Sonos. Functionality, the best ones, the Teufel and the Sony. Now I think I've made myself clear enough. Yeah. Okay, until next time, bye.